means next week I'm going to have time to do a Let's Research Mama, which I'm very excited about.
I think we should get into wind.
You want to do wind?
I want to do wind.
Okay.
I would really like to have a grasp on wind.
We can do wind.
I think a concept, this doesn't have to be in the actual pod, but a concept would be you do a Let's Research and then try to explain it to me, and then vice versa.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, next time I would do one and try to explain it to you from my research.
Okay.
Knowing that we both didn't understand it to start.
I love that.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Okay. Hi, I'm Travis, and this is Bestie Approved. And obviously, I am not here with Emma because she's still on her maternity break. But I do have a fun podcast friend. His name is Jeff Zurek. He's a literal scientist. He is the host of Whimsical Wavelengths, which is a science podcast. And he is someone who's here to help with a pain point that's been going on in mine and Emma's lives for our entire lives. He's here to help us understand wind. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So here's your life story in 30 seconds. Go. I guess I was a fun-loving kid in the fact that I grew up wanting to be essentially a scientist. I was one of those weird kids that, by grade 4, I'm like, I want to be a volcanologist, and was too stubborn to give up on the dream. So I went and got a degree in geophysics and then volunteered at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. My grades were not super stellar. They were good enough, but I used that volunteer stint in HVO, Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, looking at Kilauea and poking lava with sticks, to get myself into grad school, where I got to go back to Hawaii. I studied Hawaii, Masaya in Nicaragua, and some of the Cascades. And then I couldn't quite manage to parlay that into a professorship. So now I work in industry and solve complex problems looking for shiny things under the ground. There's the 30 seconds. Go.
I'll take it. I love that. That's awesome.
I didn't mention the podcast, though, which is something that came about as I got a desk job instead of traveling Canada into the most remote places, hundreds of kilometers away from the nearest road, and pressing buttons to find that shiny things. Now I have the free time to be a bit more of an academic, and started a podcast on the side. So it is certainly not my day job, but it is a passion project.
That's awesome. Your podcast is actually super fun. So for context to your listener, we met because of the podcast hosting service that we both work through.
RSS.com, and I don't think we're sponsored, but we
Greg
should still
Wasserman,
call it
please
out.
sponsor us. But I took a listen to it, and I was like, oh, this guy's fun. He's interesting, and you're engaging, and so I am glad that you host the podcast, because I think you do put a fun little spin on things that can seem a little dry and a little not engaging. My favorite episode was the one you had about Nikola Tesla. I think that was I just had an absolute time listening to that one. So for sure, check out Jeff's podcast. It's so good, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Thanks.
Of course. Before we kick it off, this is something we ask everyone. What is the last song you listened to?
Yeah, it is Control-Alt-Delete with Ren and the Skinner brothers. Yeah, I had to look up the second part because Ren is what everyone actually knows, or if they listen to that type of music.
Never heard of it, but I'll put it on the list. My last song was Fast by Demi Lovato. So she's really making a comeback, and I'm so excited for her.
I knew that whatever song I was going to bring to the table was going to be very different than everything else. I should really share. I'm such a nerd that if I had a theme song, it'd be Weird Al's White and Nerdy.
I've heard that since I was in 5th grade.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it. Cool. So let's just kick it off. I'll tell you what. So I wrote a little. I actually took this very seriously. So my idea for this episode was I've and then I have talked a lot about this in our personal lives, and we've touched on it in the show, but like something that like has genuinely perplexed us for our entire existence is how does wind work? Where does it come from? Like it sounds so stupid because I feel like it's something you learn in like fifth or sixth grade, but we've genuinely never just been able to grasp that concept. And I like when I saw that like we were in this same chat um with Jeff, I was like, he's a scientist. Like he's gonna get this and he's gonna figure it out. So I actually said, let me see if I can like get a grasp on it. I'm gonna try and explain it. And then you tell me how much I got right, how much I got wrong. So I'm just gonna kick it off. So we decided to do a little Mama Let's research, and this man of science is gonna let us know if we breeze through this or if we're just blowing hot air.
Hey,
Okay, so
as I was going to mention, just like you guys do the
please,
whole song bit at the beginning, my
yeah.
podcast, we do a science joke at the end. So every time I interview someone, they have to come with a science joke. I let them know ahead of time. I do not surprise them. But yeah, the groanier the joke, the better. So I fully approve.
Love it. Okay. So we thought or I say I wrote this when Emma was still like, we weren't sure when the baby was coming. Like, we weren't sure if it was coming this early or not. So every time I say we, it's she did help with this. We thought it'd be a good idea to start with some background information about where we started and what we were working with as far as foundational knowledge. So I know that as a child with ADHD, little Travis didn't have it in him the day that we covered wind in science class at Triton Elementary School. So I know that I wrote this section before we started the research, and I thought it'd be a good idea to open up the Apple Weather app. And it says wind is currently 6 miles per hour from the north. I'm sorry, from the east northeast. And today, wind speeds are 1 to 6 miles per hour with gusts up to 11 miles per hour. A couple things. How do they know? Like, are they just like throwing something into the wind and then seeing how fast it goes, like when it flies by them? When does it go from being wind to being a gust? How do they know wind speed is basically going to double at some point in the day? And east northeast is wildly specific because I didn't know that we got deeper than northeast or southwest, but that's cool. um, okay. And this brings up an important question for me. Where does wind start? Like, if it's coming from the east northeast, where is it coming from? And when you get to that starting point, is there like a point where you cross like a wind wall where there's no wind on the other side of it? So, like, would it not theoretically be pulling wind in and then like creating like a vacuum effect? Um, Dear listener, please know that I've spent hours of my life being screamed at by my papa and my uncle Jeff because I've gone my entire life believing that wind was the direct result of Earth's rotation speeding up a little faster than normal. And that's my background knowledge about wind. So I did a little bit of a deep dive. Uh, so these were the questions that were sparked by the weather app, and like these felt like the right questions to answer. So what is wind, what causes it, and where does it come from? um, so wind is just the perceptible movement of air in a direction parallel to the ground, considered as a general feature of the atmosphere. And that told me absolutely nothing. So I went to watch a Bill Nye the Science Guy video, and he explained that wind is caused by heat from the sun and the rotation of the earth. So I might have been onto something with my original theory about like the rotation of the earth is what I originally thought. Um, the sun heats up the land. The heat rises as a result of the land being like hot. So the heat obviously rises. And that heat also goes up into the air. And then this is where Bill Nye kind of lost me because the air molecules still weigh the same regardless of how close they are to each other. So that
Let's just stop
I
right there. Let's
okay.
stop right there because
God.
because this is I guess a misconception. So what he's saying is density.
Oh,
Like, so in other words, you're creating he did say it, but he said it without using the word density. I actually went and watched that video this morning and I was like, I see why Travis has this in his notes. He's not combining the fact to say that the wind is taking up more volume, so it weighs less,
got it.
into the understanding that you're actually decreasing the density of that volume of air. So does weigh less. The individual molecules do not really change. And now, again, we'll come back to this as we get further on. But as science gets more and more into the weeds, you can get things more and more complex, but you can usually boil the simple things down to something simple. So as you increase the energy of something, you actually increase its mass, sort of.
Got it.
E equals
Okay.
mc squared. But again, you're
Yes.
going deep into other things, right? But broadly speaking, you heat air up, the air molecules move apart from one another, they become less dense, and that volume of air then begins to rise.
Okay. Okay, that helps. That helps. So then after that, the warmer air molecules get pushed up by the cold air, and then I don't really know where the cold air is coming from, but like now that I think about it, I guess it's just already there because it's like colder, like higher up. I guess.
In his diagram, he put a block of ice on one side
Uh,
and light shining on quote unquote land on the other side of his aquarium.
sure.
He was making the idea that the poles, i.e., the North and South Pole, don't get as much sunlight. So that's like our block of ice. That's an
Okay,
oversimplification, but that's what he's doing in that regard.
I'll take that. Like I'll take the oversimplification because like that actually kind of like clicks.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and it is true. Like, I'm not
yeah,
saying what he did is false. It's not. It's true. It's just when you're starting to look at wind patterns and weather on a global phenomenon, you're kind of like, yes, that is there, but
fair. And then oh, okay, so then he puts like like he puts like what you're talking about, the smoke inside of like an acrylic box, and then like the smoke starts making a loop because like it's going around the heated. So like it's heated as it's rising, or so it's heated, it rises, and then it goes past the cold air and the ice block, and then it cools down, and then it comes back down because it's heavier, and then like that's so it's kind of making a circle, and then like the circle is where it started to click. So um I guess I
convection
didn't
is the word you're looking for.
connection. Yes.
Convection, convection.
Oh, I was like, no, I am making the connection, obviously. And then so I guess I didn't understand that the cooler air like is coming up from above the warmer air. So it's displacing the warm air, and it's heading towards the ground. So like I think it's just like pushing it out of the way, basically. Is that kind of
Yeah, kind
okay?
of, kind
Okay.
of.
And
It does
then
work like that, but that's not really. Yeah, that again starts to get into some of the more nuance instead of the basic underlying what we're trying to get at here.
gorgeous. Okay. Well, I promise I'm almost at the end of mine. So like
No worries. And I
you're
expect you
going
to
to
stop me and ask questions and stuff as we try to walk through certain things.
perfect. Because I'm like saying this out loud now, and I'm like, oh, I thought I had a grasp on this, and I'm like, wait, this is why I don't understand
But you
wind.
do. You do. What you've written does the basics, right? The super
Okay,
basics, and we can walk through, and I think with my skills that are hopefully too terrible, we'll break it down even further so you'll completely understand it and you can start shouting at the weathermen like you shout like some people shout at referees.
gorgeous. So then Bill Nye goes on to explain that the Earth is spinning, so the wind is spinning with the Earth, and that's why wind comes from all different directions. Because if the Earth wasn't spinning, wind would just go north to south. And then the spinning is actually so I didn't fully understand what he was talking about. So like I Googled this, and then the spinning situation is actually called the Coriolis effect. And that's why wind is coming from different directions. Um, so long and short of it, the sun creates areas of high pressure, which is cold, dense air, and then low pressure, which is hot, light air. The wind is the cold, dense air rushing aggressively to displace and push the hot, light air out of the way. And this is all happening while the earth is spinning. So it's curving the wind's path.
Yep.
Okay,
Generally
cool.
speaking, like as like a first order, yeah, that's correct. I,
Awesome. And then you tell me where I either went wrong or went right. And then you also told me that either this has an impact on climate change or climate change has an impact on this. I don't remember which, but I would
it's
love to know more
again,
about that.
I was saying to you that I could make a link there.
Mhm.
But again, like a lot of things, science is nuanced. It's very rarely yes, no, unless it's like, does gravity exist? Um,
Fair.
so we're going to start with the wind thing, and we'll come back to that because I think we need to build a little bit more before I can really talk about climate change in this regard and why wind as a vessel, like as a vehicle to talk about it, is difficult. So first off, when we talk about wind, it's differences in pressure.
Okay.
So temperature is what creates most of the time the differences in pressure. So remember what we were just saying, that as you heat air up, the molecules move further apart, the density decreases, and it starts to rise. So you can imagine as air rises, what does that do to the pressure?
It's gonna wait, what does it do?
What is pressure? Pressure is like things that confine you, right? If you go underneath the water into a deeper into the pool, the pressure gets higher and higher and higher.
Okay, okay, okay.
So
Oh, so
if
okay,
we're
got it. So it's gonna, like, expand as it goes up,
Yeah, so
or,
what
like,
does
is
that
there okay,
do to pressure as it
it
expands? What
decreases it?
Exactly. So it
Okay,
decreases pressure. So you're almost creating a low pressure system. So you
okay,
can think of it a bit like if we want to use a physics term, potential energy.
okay,
Everything wants to be at the lowest potential energy. So all of a sudden you have colder air nearby and you have low pressure. That cold air, it's kind of like a bowl rolling down a hill. It wants to go to the low pressure because it's heavier, it's denser, it flows towards the low pressure, to the lowest potential energy.
okay,
So
okay,
pressure differences are what causes wind. The bigger the pressure difference, the bigger or the stronger the wind.
okay.
So that's where we need to start. And I think the better example, I'm going to try to use Bill Nye, the science guys example, but put it into words. So we're instead visualizing something that we can all imagine, as opposed to an acrylic box and a particular setup. Because I think this is something that everyone listening or viewing, if we are recording the video on this, is going to be able to think about in their head, as opposed to our ham-fisted attempts at explaining somebody else's experiment. Uh, so we've all been beside a lake or an ocean, and on particularly, I would say, summer days, hot summer days. So
Mhm.
usually that means we have something like a high pressure system. The wind is relatively calm. There's no big pressure gradients anywhere. So what in the middle of the day, where do you think the wind is coming from?
Probably off of the lake because the lake would be a little bit cooler, right?
That is 100% correct. And you
Oh,
just
okay.
use that, and maybe, given my explanation that I just gave, you can explain why.
So the pressure is gonna be higher at the lake because it is cooler. So you've got air molecules who are looking to get away from the
So, but meanwhile, it's a sunny day.
oh,
What's happening on land?
it's much hotter on land.
Which,
So it's just which is much less dense because there's much less pressure because it's hotter.
right. So it's less dense, lower pressure, and the dense, higher pressure air flows from the lake or the ocean towards land.
Right.
Now,
Okay, yeah.
at night, what happens?
The land is gonna get cooler, so it's probably gonna go in the opposite direction.
That's right, because land, the water is going to stay warmer. It takes a lot of effort to cool that water. So it's
Right, right.
going to stay warmer than the land in the middle of the night. And so the warmer air will be over the water and the land will be cooler. And so you'll get a reverse.
Okay. Okay.
And this all assumes that you're in a high pressure situation. So that way these light breezes can actually switch direction, right?
Sure.
Now, just to keep this in mind, we're talking about something that's very local. It has nothing to do with the Coriolis effect because it's on such a local scale. So
Okay.
when we start talking about Coriolis effect and the Earth spinning, it absolutely has an effect. There's no question. But we're really starting to
Sure.
talk large scale versus small scale. And this
Okay.
example just kind of shows that wind can be affected by topography, by water bodies, um, and a number of different, you even mentioned altitude. So there's lots of examples of these sorts of things being created on a local scale.
Okay.
So hopefully that all made sense.
No, totally. It absolutely did. Yeah. No, totally. Like this is actually great.
Okay. Well, we need to then, before we get to the climate change thing, is talk about something else that is a little bit more nuanced,
Okay.
because it's not simply just heating and cooling.
Okay.
We're going to talk about hurricanes.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what's required for a hurricane? Let's start
Wind
there.
and water.
Well, water is yes. Wind is
Uh,
something that kind of builds, that it becomes part of the hurricane. But why do hurricanes form?
gun to my head, I couldn't tell you.
I bet you I can pull something out of you. So when do hurricanes happen in the Atlantic basin?
It's like a early spring situation, right?
It's kind of late spring is the start.
Okay. Okay.
So, and it goes through
So it's
to about November 1st, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. It might be December 1st, but I think it's November 1st. So it's over the summer.
okay. So where the land is heating up, so you've got significant amounts of water that are like and air that are being pulled from the ocean, which is no. Okay.
No, the big thing you need is warm water.
Okay.
You have to have water that's, I'm sorry, I don't speak in Fahrenheit, above
No, you're
26
fine.
degrees Celsius. So
Okay.
what is that, like
It's
87
80-ish. Yeah.
Fahrenheit? So you need warm water.
Okay.
One of the things that is lighter than the air at the bottom is water vapor. So
Okay.
as you evaporate water, it's less dense than air and it begins to rise. Now you have
Okay.
a pressure differential, because all of a sudden our air is going up,
Okay.
other air has to come in. As that air goes up, it's water vapor. It starts to condense as it reaches the higher part of the atmosphere. That process is also a thermal process. When things condense, it releases energy. It's
Okay.
As it releases energy, it heats the atmosphere. That atmosphere up top then becomes less dense. So it's low pressure because it's condensing. So it sucks up more water or more water vapor from the bottom.
Got it. Okay.
It's like
Okay.
an engine, if you want to think of
Sure.
it that way, because you need the warm water, the warm, hot, humid water to be able to create this engine of constantly bringing the water vapor up into the atmosphere.
Okay.
So without that,
Okay.
you're never going to get a hurricane. And now you have this huge pressure differential, right? You keep
Sure.
building and building and building and building and building and building, and you have this huge low right in the center, centered over the eye wall. And then the wind field is just the difference in pressure from there to the outside of the storm.
Okay. Okay.
Because you need differences in pressure. So if you ever look on a weather map and look at these hurricanes, they're just like these
Yeah.
bullseyes, right?
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
if you look at the pressure, specifically the pressure, and if you've ever looked at a topographic map, although I have a feeling that we're almost too old. My kids are like, "What's a topographic map?" But
I know what a topographic map
I
is.
know, I know, you do. But I mean, there's like at some point it all becomes Google satellite imagery, right?
Fair. Yeah.
No one knows how to use a topographic map anymore. At any rate, so if you look at the contours of the pressure, you're just going to see this deepening well um, around these hurricanes. And it's that pressure difference from the outside to the inside that's just creating the wind, right? As wind whips around trying to get to, you can think of it as, again, potential energy.
Sure. Okay.
So, one thing, now this is where it gets a little more tricky. If I go from hurricanes and big storms and wind in general and trying to get it to climate change, the
Okay.
models and the science are nuanced. In some areas, wind will actually become less. In some areas, wind will become a little bit more. When we start talking about hurricanes, the climate change may actually decrease the number of hurricanes. And I say may because we're doing forward looking, right? We're not taking an
Right.
observation of today and going, yes, this is the physics and everything works out. We're like, if we understand the dynamics of our atmosphere due to increases in warming, due to our greenhouse gas emissions, etc., then we think it's going to increase wind shear. Yes, I'm throwing
Okay.
out more terms, and I already see you going, okay, how do I place this and everything else? But if our hurricane has everything moving up, creating the load pressure at the top and sucking up more and more and more, if we take wind shear, that's like pushing at the top of that whole heat engine.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're pushing at the top, you're going to smear out that heat engine. You're going to disrupt it. You're actually going to knock off the cloud tops because you're going to
Okay.
move them, and you're disrupting it so it can't form. You can't get this runaway effect of, I see the in your
Okay.
mouth there for those who are not
Yeah.
watching. So so as you knock off the top, you're disrupting that heat engine, and you're going to cause the hurricane, if it's already formed, to start to fall apart, because you're disrupting it. The other way you can disrupt a hurricane is cool the water beneath it or have it go over land, because now it's losing its engine source. So the same idea to both of those situations is having lots of vertical or wind shear, changing, being able to knock off those storm tops. And
Sure.
we think climate change is actually going to increase this kind of shear. However,
Okay.
it's also going to increase the temperature of the water. So the prevailing theory or idea is that we may probably will get a fewer number of hurricanes in the Atlantic basin. Specifically, I'm talking about the Atlantic basin. I'm not talking about the Pacific or across the Pacific when we start talking about typhoons. I'm really talking about the Atlantic basin here. We'll get an increase in shear winds, reducing the number of hurricanes, but we're also going to have warmer water. So when the conditions are conducive to create this heat engine, to have this flare up, the hurricanes are going to be stronger.
Okay. So like not as often, but much more intense when they do happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
A-
Okay.
And that fits with the general theme when we start looking at other things as well. Like we
Sure.
talk about weather extremes as opposed to specific like trends, right? We're going to see
Yeah.
more extremes, more droughts, more flooding, and not necessarily on a daily basis. It's just when these events happen, they're
Yeah.
going to be more extreme.
Okay.
And that goes right across from storm systems to heat to rain, even to snow, because disruptions in that whole wind field and the temperature differential between our North Pole and the equator can cause a destabilization, or wow, words so tough, 8 o'clock in the morning, destabilizes the weather patterns in the Arctic and can
Okay.
cause the polar vortex to come further south than it normally does as well, which can create really nasty cold snaps and crazy snowstorms in northern Texas and Florida. So it's more than just a heating, it's a destabilization. And when this destabilization happens to our weather patterns, it's going to create extremes in wacky weather, and they will happen more often under climate
Okay.
change than they would otherwise,
Got it. Okay.
which is kind of why we need to do something.
We should do something. And I don't know what to do, but I feel like you probably have a tip because like I recycle and like I don't run my heat constantly, but like I don't know what else to do.
Well, this is what it comes down to, right? Is that you can't. I get really frustrated with people blaming other people who are living in society. It's like I have to blame someone for dealing with the system that exists. Like, that's just
Right.
crazy. You have a car, you need to get to work. Let's not shame somebody because they have a car. Like, that's
Sure.
ridiculous. But there are things that we need to do as voters in a democracy where we can start choosing or forcing our politicians, regardless of stripe or partisan politics, that we need to move in certain directions. Like, they will move if people ask them to,
Mhm.
because that's what their job is. And so things like moving towards electric cars, moving towards, uh, I mean, for all its talk, both in Canada, which is where I'm from, I'm Canadian, eh? The Alberta and Texas, they're the oil capitals of
Yeah.
North America in our respective countries, but yet they are the leaders when it comes to solar and wind
Yeah.
because the economics are there, right? Solar is cheaper than coal in
I
general.
mean, yeah.
It takes more time to build up the capacity of solar,
Sure.
but watt for watt, solar is cheaper.
For
And
sure.
so we're getting to a point where the system as a whole is starting to make a switch. And so we just need to help that along as individuals. I'm not talking about foregoing a vacation necessarily. It's about changing just the whole system, changing short plane rides eventually need to become electric instead of jet fuel. Long
Sure.
plane rides will probably always use jet fuel because
Mhm.
it just is what
You
it is. You
can't,
need
like,
enough
you can't.
energy.
Yeah.
You run into a physical limitation for sure. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So that helps. That helps a lot. Like, first of all, A, thank you for helping me understand wind. B, thank you for kind of, I guess, putting it all together and like in a bigger context. Cause like I think I didn't come into this thinking like, oh, we're gonna walk away from it thinking, hey, this is something that like actually does matter in the grand scheme of things, where this will impact people's lives. This will, I don't like, I mean, I think back to like Hurricane Katrina, where like New Orleans and like parts of Louisiana are still dealing with that situation. So I would like to avoid that on a societal level as much as possible. So understanding the like impacts of what we're doing everywhere and how that like that paints the bigger picture is super helpful. Um, and last thing, I think there's like something that this has been a theme in my life lately, where I've talked to like I've been I think on the receiving end of like where I am with you right now. Like I'm the roles have been reversed a little bit, where I've been explaining like financial models or like something to someone like on a business perspective, and I think there's a perception where, like, when someone knows something that you don't, that you're immediately stupid, and I appreciate you not making me feel stupid for not understanding wind.
Oh my gosh. What is it? I have been in the game long enough to know what I don't know, and it's a lot. Like, oh my goodness. It would be so hypocritical of me to take that tact. Like, and quite frankly, I have a podcast about science communication. I mean, there's so much to learn in the world today, and it's I want people to stay curious. I want people to be engaged. I want people to learn. I don't wanna make Idiocracy, the movie, become a reality.
Right?
So,
I feel that. I
yeah,
feel
of
that.
course, and I love the chance to go on, your show here and be able to opine about science in general. It's a lot of fun. I mean, that's why I started a podcast. That and I like the sound of my own voice. I mean, what? Uh, it's too bad that I didn't get to meet the other half of this podcast right here and now. And maybe there'll be another opportunity in the future.
There absolutely will be. You've been so amazing, so helpful. I know this is a much shorter episode than normal. I'm still trying to figure out like what the footing looks like. This is for the listener. Like this is, I'm still trying to figure out what it looks like until Emma comes back, and realistically, probably like February. So sorry that we didn't have a reality roundup today. I can't imagine that Jeff prepared by watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City last night, but
No, that's not really my cup of tea.
and that's okay because science is not mine. So, but no, you can come back on literally anytime you want. And I'm sure when Emma hears this, she's going to be furious that I did this without her, but we'll cross that bridge together because I'm sure there's something else about science that we don't understand. But thank you so much for being here, Jeff. Tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Whimsical Wavelengths. The podcast is Whimsical Wavelengths, a science podcast. I'm always looking for new show ideas, and just poke me on Instagram or Facebook so that way I'm not talking into the void. The more interaction, the better.
Awesome. I'll put your episode or your show in my show notes. But go listen to it for real. Like it's super interesting. You'll have an absolute time. But From Indy to Alberta to wherever you are, we love you and thank you for listening.